There comes a time in every man's life when he finds himself in a windowless room, bathed in flickering fluorescent light, surrounded by decades of forgotten tech, and a faint smell of plastic slowly breaking down, and he thinks to himself, yes, this is where I belong. Today we're heading back into that fluorescent void known as Hard Off, and I'm on a mission. We're gonna pick up some games, spend irresponsibly, responsibly, and maybe we'll find something kinda unique along the way to kind of take a look at. So grab a snack and some orange juice and try not to reach for the screen, because here we go. And walking up to the first display that greets me as I enter the store, we have a whole case of childhood dreams here, and adult level price tags. Pikachu, Charizard, Torchic, they're all here and unfortunately kind of scratched to oblivion. This Mario-themed Game Boy Color, however, is pretty slick, and the Tezuka-designed Game Boy Light, that's pretty cool too, if a little bit scratched. But at these prices, I'm just gonna have to wait to pick this stuff up. Now that's some pretty cool hardware, that's for sure, but let's get into what really matters, and that's collecting the games themselves. Now here is a good sight for some collectors. Great games, solid condition, and the prices don't make you cringe. But of course, there are no boxes. These ones are just cards, plain and simple. For some, that's perfectly fine and, they just want to play it and be done with it. It's a test of willpower. I want the full package, the boxes, the manual, all of the original wrapping. Still, if you're looking to bulk up your collection fast without breaking the bank, this is where you start. Mario Party, Kirby 64, Diddy Kong, Donkey Kong 64, solid classics, loose carts, cheap prices. But now it's time to leave those loose cartridges behind and focus on games that are still in their original boxes. Let's take a closer look and see what's worth looking at. And here it is, Mario Bros. 3 for the Famicom. Classic box art, vibrant colors, and that kind of unmistakable charm that only really an 80s game can pull off. The back shows off the gameplay highlights, platforming, power-ups, and whatever else Nintendo thought would sell copies in 1988. It's not really a pristine edition box, it's got a bit of dirt and wear and tear, but it's nothing that ruins the vibe for me. I'm okay with little character on this piece. We're gonna go ahead and pick this one up. And here we have another really cool find. We have Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, bongos and all. Definitely a cool piece and a unique controller, but I'm kind of running low on shelf real estate at the moment, so I'm not sure if I can pick this one up today. The box itself also isn't really in that great a shape either. It's a little worse for wear, some holes, some little divots here and there. I don't quite like that too much, so as tempting as it is, I think I'm going to pass this time. Maybe on my next trip I'll find a better copy, or maybe just have a little bit more space. And next up we have Kirby's Dream Course for the Super Nintendo, or the Super Famicom if you want to get technical. And the price? Basically nothing. Honestly, it feels rude not to buy it. The box is in decent shape, albeit a little bit dirty, and this one's actually a blast in multiplayer. Feels less like a golf game and more like a passive-aggressive friendship test though. These games can get pretty heated. This one's an easy pickup. We're gonna take this one home with me. And here it is, Ocarina of Time. One of the most iconic games of all times, boxed and looking sharp. The box art on this one just hits. Something about it makes you feel like you're about to do something really important, even if it's just adding it onto a shelf. I'm a big fan of the Zelda series, and this one right here is just too iconic to pass up, so this one's coming home with me. No second thoughts. Well, that'll about do it for the shopping today, but before heading out, I took one last lap around the store. A few random gems tucked between the usual chaos, some retro accessories, a couple of weird controllers, the one thing that I stared at for way too long before reminding myself I'm out of shelf space. And then I did something mighty foolish. I tried a crane game, gambling my 100 yen away. This little Hachiware Plus was just sitting there, calling for me, judging me. Thought maybe, just maybe, today was my day. And it wasn't. I'd like to say I was close, but I wasn't. Pretty sure the claw was just there for decoration. Still, no regrets. The real prize is already in the bag, and it doesn't require 100 yens and false hope to enjoy. Let's take these games home and see what kind of trouble we just bought. Alright, so here's the haul. 3 box games, all solid pickups. all fighting for shelf space. Nothing too wild this time, but each one holds up. Good condition, fine price, and honestly just nice to look at. Let's take a closer look, starting at the oldest of the bunch. First up of the bunch, we have Super Mario Bros. 3, a childhood favorite and an absolute must-have. Box copies like this don't really show up every day, so when they do, you just kinda have to pick it up. And if we take a look at the front box art, it's busy in the best way. Mario is front and center, soaring through the sky like he's got zero awareness of the chaos that's folding behind him. Meanwhile, Luigi's doing crowd control, grabbing Peach, leading her away from the incoming Koopalings like he's late for something. And then of course, as usual, Toad is tagging along. For some reason, he's always invited to these outings. Turning to the back, we get the usual promotional flair. Mario's mid-stride, holding a Koopa shell like he's about to file a noise complaint with that crazy Koopa. Then there's this short blurb giving you a sales pitch, lots of stages, power-ups, and amazing action promised in that bold 8-bit way. Nothing too flashy, just enough to let you know that this was a big deal when it dropped. Looking at the screenshots, you get a shot of the overworld map, at least for the first stage. Very clean, colorful, and instantly recognizable. Then there's Mario squaring off with a boomerang bro, because every box needs a little mid-battle energy. And of course, a few smaller in-game shots to remind you that this game has a lot going for it. It's a good box, it's not trying to oversell itself, just a few images, a paragraph, and confidence in the product, which to be fair, is absolutely earned. Taking a closer look at the condition of the box, there's this nice little constellation of black splotches across the back surface here. Can't tell if it's dirt, age, or just a box that's seen one too many flea markets. The corners are soft, edges are a bit ragged. Not really collector's grade by any stretch, but I've seen worse, and I'm more than happy to add it to my own personal collection. And hey, I'm not here for perfection, I'm just here for the cardboard. Now let's crack this bad boy open and see what it has to offer inside. Alright, let's take a look inside. It's always a bit of a gamble with these older boxes. You'll never know what'd still be in there. The cartridge comes out first. The label's in pretty good shape, still shiny, no weird peeling or fading. The yellow casing stands out nicely. A lot of Japanese Famicom games have their own cartridge colors, which gave the shelf a bit more personality. Box art's the same, so we won't linger here for too long. Next is the little AC adapter warning sheet. I'm kinda surprised that this survived. Most of the time these things just kinda vanish into the ether. And here's the manual, always the most interesting part. Sometimes helpful, sometimes just full of oddly charming illustrations. The front and the back match the box art, so there's really nothing new visually, so we're just gonna move on from here. And the first thing that we see is a message from Mario. I'll leave the translation on screen if you want to pause and read it. It's a nice little touch. The top corner has this postage stamp style Tanuki Mario. It's very interesting. It works. It feels like a nice little letter from the Big M himself. Very playful. And then down below we've got Mario facing off with Bowser. Fun little action sketch, not bad for page 1. Next up we see Koopa and the Koopalings get their introduction. The art here is great, each character has a bit of personality, and you can tell the artists were having fun with it. Again, I'll leave the translations on screen, but we're not going to linger here for very long. And now we're getting into the power-ups. Some old favorites here, well, old now, but these were new at the time. The illustrations do a great job of explaining things without too much text. Clean and simple and effective. Now this one's a bit weird. The controls page has a bit of a different color scheme. I'm not exactly sure if that was intentional or it's just a print variance, but it still stands out. Gives this page some character, even if it doesn't mean to. More pages here showing off Mario in action. These drawings are really solid. There's a certain charm to these old manuals. They're not just functional, but they also have style, which I really appreciate. And here we have another quote from one of the Koopalings. Again, translations on screen if you're curious. It adds a bit of flavor to what could have been a straight info dump. Now this one for me is a highlight. We got a Paraguma and his tiny little sidekicks. I don't think I've ever seen them illustrated like this outside of the game itself. Little details like this are part of what makes these manuals really enjoyable to look through. Now here's one of the standout sections, the enemy pages. Just about every enemy in the game has got its own little spotlight, complete with a name and a short description. You got a good selection of enemies in game and they're all here, plus some weirder ones that you'll forget about until you see them again in print. At the back, we got a message to the players, translations on screen. Stuff like this always feels like a quiet little thank you from the dev team. Simple, but meaningful. Very nice. And then here we wrap up this with one last piece of art featuring Luigi, Peach, and Toad. Same as on the front of the box, a very tidy ending. And that right there is the manual. Decent layout and some fun illustrations. Let's go ahead and pack this one up and move on to the next one. And next up here we have Kirby's Dream Course, or as it's known here in Japan, Kirby Ball. Very direct, no room for misinterpretation here. He'd even helpfully let you know that this is a ball action game, in case you mistook it for Kirby tax software or something. And there's not just one Kirby on the cover, but there are 4, and that's at least 3 more Kirbys than I'm used to seeing at once. The art's got a good energy to it. It's cheerful, chaotic, vaguely threatening in that Kirby way. A few enemies in the background, a bit of in-game imagery, and some bright, soft colors that are unmistakably 90s Nintendo. On the back, we get a short description that compares the game to both golf and billiards, because apparently Kirby lives in a strange sports crossover universe in this game. And at the top, you can see we've also got the 2 Kirbys locked in an aggressive stare-down. Might be a friendly competition, might be a fight to the death. With Kirby, it's really hard to tell. Now, the box itself has definitely seen some years. The edges are frilled, the corners are soft. There's a layer of something over the box, I'm not quite sure, just some sort of dirt. But you can just consider that a layer of history if you're feeling very generous. Still, I like the way that it looks. Kinda like a well-worn book. Feels lived in. But that's enough admiring on the outside. Let's crack it open and see what we can find on the inside. Now, cracking open the case here to Kirby Ball, and on the top we've got the manual. We'll set that aside for now and take a look at the cartridge. The sticker's in decent shape, a few light indentations, maybe some little mystery objects, but honestly not bad for something printed in 1994. And the little smudges and indentations just add character, or history, or whatever. Depends on how poetic you're feeling, I suppose. The backside's a little dirty, but nothing alarming. Looks like it'll run just fine, and that's really all we needed to do. Alright, now let's take a closer look at the manual. The front cover has the same art as the box, Super Famicom logo on the back, nothing too surprising. Inside though, this is where things get interesting. The art style feels like something out of a well-made children's book. Gentle colors, soft lines, it's got that classic storybook vibe. Almost like Winnie the Pooh if Pooh had a warp star. I'll also leave a little translation for those who are interested if you want to pause the video for a moment just to take a look at that. Otherwise, we'll just sit back and enjoy the art for just a moment. And here we can see King DDD doing his thing, stealing some stars, but if you look closely, no orange gloves, just blue hands and fingers, which I'm not really used to seeing. It's kind of weird and unsettling, like when you see Mickey Mouse with fingernails or something like that. And I'll also leave a translation of this screen too, if you guys are very interested in the story. The rest of the manual is mostly a mix-in of in-game screenshots and a few small illustrations showing how to play. I already know how to play, but the little drawings make it worth flipping through anyways. I really like this little moment of Kirby looking at himself. It's pretty adorable. Very, very adorable. We can also get a look at some of Kirby's abilities here. Nice simple artwork, nothing too fancy, but enough charm to make it worth a pause. And then near the back here, DDD shows up again, still gloveless, still looking strangely human with those fingers of his. And then there's this, a flat little Kirby, peacefully asleep. Easily the best drawing in the whole manual. That's a 10 out of 10 right there. Overall, I'd say Mario 3 had the better manual. More art, more flavor, still, this one's got its charm. But we're gonna go ahead and pack this one and add it to the game stack. Last up here, and the one I'm most excited to find, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for the N64. The Japanese box art is completely different from what I grew up with. Link's front and center with Epona, framed by a flaming background, but the whole thing's got a monochrome palette. Black, white, shades of gray give this heavy, serious tone like something big's about to happen. The red lettering and the logo pops hard against all that grayscale. It really sells the feeling that this game isn't just a quest, it's a journey. The back gives you a brief story setup. You got the evil rising, saving the world, that sort of thing. You get a few solid screenshots too, the Temple of Time, Dodongo battle, Link riding across Hyrule Field, some classic shots, nothing too spoilery, just enough to make you remember why this game's a big deal. Now condition-wise, it's rough. The edges are all scuffed up, the corners are flaring out like they gave up, and there's a layer of grime on the front that looks like it's been there since the GameCube launched. Still, nothing a little careful cleaning can't handle, at least for that grime, and for a title like this, a little wear and tear is not a deal breaker. Happy to finally have this one in the collection. Now to move on into what's inside the box, let's take a look under the hood and see what kind of shape it is inside. Always a mystery with these things. Hopefully it's got everything intact. Opening it up, the first thing we see is the cartridge sitting right on top, with the manual and an extra insert tucked underneath. We'll set the paper and manual aside for now and just take a look at the cartridge itself. Labels looking clean, no scratches, no tears. Always satisfying to see a full, intact sticker on something this old. Cartridge has a little bit of surface dirt, but nothing serious. Overall, pretty solid shape. Alrighty, now we'll set that one aside and let's see what's going on with the manual and that extra piece of paper. First up, we've got this little questionnaire addressed to Nintendo's Kyoto offices. It's a thank you note mixed with a survey asking for feedback on the game and promising some kind of Nintendo swag for those who participate. Given that this game came out in '98, I think it's safe to say that we're a little past the deadline for freebies, so we'll skip that and then just head to the manual here. The manual's front cover features a pretty familiar piece of art, not the same as the box, which is always a nice surprise. This image has been around the block, Nintendo Power, posters, you name it, so nothing groundbreaking, but still a solid, iconic piece of Zelda art. The back, however, offers something a little bit different, a cool scene of Link battling Deku Babas, those little plant enemies from the very beginning. I haven't seen this particular illustration before, so that's a nice touch, adds a little something extra to the manual for me. Opening the manual, we see a trend with all three games so far, starting off with a bit of story to get us into the game's world. For those curious, I'll leave a translation on screen. Next up here, we have some introductions to some key characters. We got Zelda, the Gorons, the Zora, Link, the Kokiri, a few farmers from Lon Lon Ranch, or at least the residents, rather, and of course, Ganon. There's also a high-definition version of the in-game map. If you ever found the N64 map to be a bit blurry, this is your chance to see what it's actually supposed to look like in full HD glory. Moving on, we hit some basic instructions, nothing too exciting here, standard fare, with a few familiar illustrations. Then we get to Link's controls, and here's where the manual really shines. I hadn't seen these before. Link holding his sword and shield, looking ready to throw down, animations for walking and running, jumping, swimming, all unique and nicely done. Next up, we got some action shots. Climbing ladders, grabbing ledges, pushing blocks, handling bombs, opening treasure chests, like a mini gallery of Link's moves. Honestly, this manual is a nice little collection of Ocarina of Time art. Most of the online articles that you see might, recycle the same Link images over and over again, but here it's all fresh, it's nice, it's stuff I hadn't seen very much of, so it's really nice to see. Here we got some more combat illustrations showing Link slashing, spinning, jumping, rolling, and blocking. Classic moves all captured perfectly in the 2D illustration style. There's even a couple of pages dedicated to the 3D objects from the game. Now in-game they're a little bit blurry, but here they're crisp, giving you a real sense of that early 90s CGI vibe. Pretty nostalgic. And then here we have a really striking illustration of Goma fighting young Link, something I hadn't really seen before. Alongside that, adult Link with Epona, a nice touch. At the end we find these stickers for creating your own music with the ocarina. If you know the Scarecrow song from the game, you might think of these as a good way to memorize the song that you've set for the Scarecrow. Maybe put these in a notebook later on and use them. There's also some extra papers here, some Nintendo info, warnings, and unexpectedly, we've got Toad making a cameo. Hey there, Toad. Alright, well that was certainly a little treasure trove of things right there, but let's put this back in the box. This one's definitely my favorite game that we've checked out today. And with that, another trip to Hardolph comes to a close. We laughed, we passed some overpriced Game Boys, we failed at a crane game, but in the end, we picked up a few boxed classics and added some serious weight to the collection. I'm not really sure if there's anything deeper I can say here, but I guess I could just say that it's really nice to add a few more games to the shelf. Thanks for tagging along. If you like the direction the channel's heading, or you have your own opinions, maybe leave a comment down below. And if you really like the video, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. Until next time, I'll see you again.